The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Pod at the Palace. I'm Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas. Special guest, but if you listen to me, you listen to him. It's Andrew Ellis, the consigliere of the Bombastic podcast, the critically acclaimed Bombastic podcast. Baseball, he talks hoops too. He's with me on the Pod at the Palace postgame show all the time, and I will be infiltrating the Bombastic once we get into baseball season. But we're here at the KSBar in Lexington, and we're enjoying our trip so far, but we're going to talk a little bit of Razorback hoops, and no better person to join me than Andrew. So how you doing, buddy? What do you make of Lexington so far? Because I was walking around Rupp Arena yesterday with my selfie stick, and I was like, oh, this is Rupp Arena. This is Lex Live. This is cool, and I'm enjoying it. How you feeling?
I definitely like Lexington. I also like that you asked me how I'm doing. Like we haven't spent every waking moment together for the last 3 days, basically. And we'll spend, But
I got to check in on you.
Just wanted to make sure you're good. But no, Lexington. I think we're all kind of on the same page of that. Lexington's different than we maybe thought. Like when I think of Lexington, obviously, the only thing I think of is Kentucky Wildcats. Yeah. So I just assume college town. And Fayetteville really has that ultimate college town feel when you're right there by the U of A. Lexington, I feel like, is more of a city than maybe we expected.
So much so.
And maybe that's just because where we're staying is not quite on campus or whatever, but taller buildings. We're just walking around. It's pretty cool. It's like kind of a bigger area than I maybe would have thought. But we've seen no shortage of interesting places, and I think it speaks volumes that every single person we say, hey, what's some recommendations of places you like? They all list off 7 different places. Yeah. Some overlap here and there with some of the top ones. But Jack just listed off 5 places that we had not heard. And I'm like, everybody kind of has their own favorite place. They all kind of have their own little thing. And I'm enjoying Lexington for sure.
Well, people were like, well, why'd you guys get there on Wednesday? The game's not until Saturday. This is why, because there's so many recommendations, and we definitely appreciate them. There is a basketball game happening here in the twilight hours of Saturday. Arkansas and Kentucky, we get it. So much has been made of Cal making his return to Rupp Arena, rightfully so. Are the fans going to boo him? Are they not? Are they going to boo DJ Wagner and the former Kentucky players? Are they not? What's the reception going to be like? What are the emotions going to be like? We've talked about all those things ad nauseum. You know what we haven't talked about much? Arkansas's chances of winning this basketball game. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on as we sit here today. I think you saw the line. I'm not sure where it came from, but opened up as maybe Arkansas being 11.5-point underdogs here. And that's kind of fair. Kentucky's very good in Rupp Arena. Overachieving based on expectations coming into the year. They're really, really good. Arkansas, we know, has struggled. They're 1-6 in SEC play. Things are not going well. They're not healthy. Okay. But is it that crazy to sit here and think that Arkansas could win this game, or that John Calipari could come here and kind of get the last laugh in Rupp Arena? Because as much respect as I have for Mark Pope in Kentucky, and I got plenty of it, I think they're very good, but they don't strike me as much more talented than Arkansas. I don't think it would be crazy for this to be a really, really good game on Saturday. I hope it is, but I don't think anybody who's saying that Arkansas can't win this game is really operating in a place of reality. I don't think it's that far-fetched of a thing to think about.
Just 3 days ago, Curtis. Obviously Kentucky's coming off of a massive win over Tennessee, and massive is probably an understatement. We were just talking to Jack, and he was saying if they had lost that game, this would have been a must-win, this Arkansas game. And it's still, Kentucky really needs to win this game. I just don't think that fan base would react well to a loss here. But if this Kentucky team is not that far removed from a 3-game losing streak, a time when there were a lot of questions. They've also got some guys banged up who it seems like they'll be back, but it's not like they're firing on all cylinders despite a really impressive win over a good Tennessee team on the road. That had to maybe add some confidence. But, I'm kind of with you where I saw the line, which we came out while we were doing the show earlier, and you see 11.5, and I'm like, that seems a little high. The more I think about it, there is a very clear recipe for Kentucky beating Arkansas very thoroughly. And that recipe is as simple as Kentucky can really shoot the basketball.
It's the Missouri recipe.
Yes, and also Arkansas. We've seen Arkansas's three-point defense. It's not consistently horrible, but they've gotten popped a few times. The Illinois comes to mind. That Missouri game comes to mind. Was it the other night, Oklahoma hits 7 in the first half and then didn't hit any in the second, but that kind of was, so we've seen Arkansas have some stretches to struggle defending the three-point line, and Kentucky is just not the team you want to face when you got Kobe Bryant, maybe the best shooter in all of college, the best shooter in college basketball.
Sure.
Jackson Robinson obviously can fill it up. Like Kentucky and Mark Pope, that's what they want to do. They want to do the spacing game. They want to outshoot you, and Arkansas is really a team that I question, and everyone should be questioning, do they have the firepower to keep up with Kentucky if it turns into that kind of showcase? But to your point, would it be ridiculous if Arkansas won this game? I don't think so. I mean, I certainly wouldn't go in expecting it. I'm not there yet. I haven't quite talked myself in. I haven't drank enough Kool-Aid
I've
to where I'm
talked
like
myself
Arkansas.
into the cover so far.
Which I like the cover. I definitely like the cover. I think if Arkansas is going to win this game, it cannot be the back and forth shootout that we saw in Rupp last year, where Arkansas ends up losing 111 to 102. I mean, the way like we said it, the most Arkansas scored in SEC play 74, and that was against a bad LSU team. Could Arkansas really match up if Kentucky does play well on the offensive end? I think if Arkansas is going to have to win this game, it's going to have to be ugly. It's going to be kind of similar to how they won that Georgia game last week. I think Arkansas's physicality, which has been something that's hit or miss. I mean, Arkansas's front court, there's a lot of questions. I think Arkansas's got to be extremely physical. I think they have to defend the three-point line. That's a given, no doubt about it. And I think, Kentucky won with the strategy of letting Tennessee's guys shoot, that they were okay with taking shots. There's going to be a lot of that going around at Arkansas. So a long way of saying Arkansas just has to make shots to win, but Arkansas is going to need that 3J Wagner to hit 3 or 4. They're going to need John L. Davis to obviously be the John L. Davis that we've been waiting and begging for all year. There's certainly a path to victory for Arkansas. It's there. I do think, if Arkansas loses by 25, I'm not going to be stunned, because I think the recipe is clearly there for Kentucky, just with the firepower to set a pace that Arkansas can't really match.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see if Arkansas is really a good defensive team or not. It's kind of interesting. You hear so much about Kentucky's offense, and it's really good. They just go about it in a different way. It's about Arkansas being able to defend Kentucky's actions, because they don't have the guys who are just going to go one-on-one with you, break you down, drive it into the lane on you, and kick it out. They might not even have a point guard healthy in this game, but it didn't matter against Tennessee because they run their stuff so well. It's high IQ basketball. They create a lot of really good looks, and they knock them down. They're shooting over 40% as a team from 3 in SEC play. So maybe we can play their due for an off night shooting the basketball game.
And Arkansas's damn sure due for a good shooting night.
That's exactly right. But it does come down to shot making for Arkansas, and hopefully a lack of shot making for Kentucky. And we'll see what happens there. You mentioned Arkansas's firepower. That's the biggest thing for me. Do they have enough of that? And you're right. It's going to take guys playing above what they've played, a level above that so far. Magic number for Arkansas. If Arkansas is going to have a chance to win this game, they need to score at least how many points?
I said yesterday on the show, Arkansas is going to they're going to score more points in this game than they've scored in the SEC all year, which isn't saying that much. They've had a lot of stinking showcases. I think we said 74 was the number. So I'm going to set it right there, 75. I think that gives them a good chance. And Kentucky, by the way, not the stiffest defense Arkansas is going to have faced all year.
Very true.
They've actually been facing a lot of defensive-minded teams. Even Georgia, the team they beat, a defensive-minded team. Arkansas has been facing some Florida, Tennessee, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's hard to find teams in the country that'll defend you better than that. And so I think there's maybe a case to be made that this could be a game where you see Arkansas break out offensively. I think it has to start around that 75 range. And anything higher than that, one would be crazy to expect.
Unlikely.
But I really think if it gets high, if it turns into that 85, 82 type of game, I don't like Arkansas's chances there. And I think if you can muck it up with Kentucky and get them to kind of play your game, which we don't really know what Arkansas's game is because they don't have an identity. But I think it can't be a pretty game if Arkansas is going to win this one.
Yeah, for sure. And the pathway to getting there, because people hear that, and it's well, how's Arkansas going to do that? How are they going to score all these points? Their field goal percentage sucks. Their three-point percentage sucks. They can't get anything going in half court. You got to turn Kentucky over. And if you look at the first half, for example, against Tennessee, they had quite a few turnovers, so they didn't have a point guard. And when Tennessee was able to get things going offensively, is because they were getting those. They were playing fast. They were getting some easy points in transition, and that's how they were able to get some momentum. Against Vanderbilt on the road, they had a ton of turnovers. I think Lamont Butler had 6 turnovers by himself. It's the most he's had in his career or whatever. And Vanderbilt took advantage, man. They got out in the open floor and they scored. That is so important for Arkansas in a game like this. to generate some eyeball turnovers, get out in transition and score. And I think that's also probably one of the two keys to unlocking Adu Thero, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because people are like, man, no wonder they lost to Oklahoma. He only took 4 shots. You don't give him the ball and let him create his shots. If he can drive the paint, he will. But teams are taking that away, as they should. The key to getting his FTAs, I'm thinking about Eric Musselman here, his field goal attempts up, it's him getting steals, getting deflections, getting out in passing lanes, getting out in transition and finishing, and then him crashing the offensive glass and getting putbacks. Like, that's where he does most of his damage. And you've got to have that, because your best player has to at least give you his baseline statistically. Like, if he's averaging 17 a game, you need that from Adu Thero in this one at a minimum, and you need other guys to do a little bit more maybe. It was interesting you mentioned the way that they defended Tennessee, where it's like, hey, the guys who can't shoot, that we'll let them shoot all day. As long as it's the guys we want shooting, we'll let them do that. And you're right, that's probably going to be Pope's philosophy against Arkansas. But Kentucky has not been good defensively this season. They've really struggled, really, really bad in pick-and-roll defense. It's as bad as Arkansas, maybe. Yeah, how's Arkansas going to take advantage of that? You mentioned 3J Wagner. They're going to be going under all those screens. He's got to pull up and knock them down, man.
Yeah.
Got to knock down a few. Like we said on the show yesterday, the last time Arkansas and Kentucky played in Rupp Arena, Wagner was 4 or 5 from 3. So, so there you go. And he's going to have those opportunities. He's got to get back into that. When he was shooting at 40% in non-conference play, it was all quality looks. And now he's starting to take more off the dribble and, step backs and late clock stuff. When he gets into a rhythm, he can kind of knock those things down. They don't care. They don't want you in the lane. They're going to be sagging all the way off of you, and you're going to be able to step into him, and we'll see if he knocks him down. And I'm really, really anxious to see about the front court, which you mentioned. We'll play a couple clips here in a second. Jonas Adu, I feel like every time he rolls open. He's really good at that short roll stuff that Eric Musselman liked. They could have something there. Are they going to look for him? Because a lot of times they never look for him on the roll, and then Big Z gives you just the exact opposite, where he's that pick and pop threat, and you're going to need some threes from him. That 2-man dynamic with those, whoever's in at the 5, man, the pick and roll is going to be so important for those guards to have their head on the swivel and utilize them properly. That's where you can hurt Kentucky's defense, and that's the kind of thing that can give Arkansas a fighting chance, in addition to getting to the free throw line, which might be difficult on the road in Rupp.
Well, you mentioned Adu Thero earlier, and a lot of things, like the transition. I love that point about the transition, because early in the season, Arkansas's best offensive games came in non-conference, of course, which makes sense. You're facing lesser competition, but they were getting out and running a lot. It's a lot harder to do that against actual SEC teams that know how to dribble, know how to play as a team. They're clicking on all cylinders offensively. Not saying that Kentucky doesn't fit that criteria, but this might be a matchup where Arkansas might be able to create some of that. And, Kentucky certainly doesn't mind playing at a pretty high tempo.
True.
And so I wonder if Arkansas can be more strategic, because I don't want it to be a track meet where it's just back and forth chaos. Mm-hmm. But I think Arkansas, if they're able to kind of force that chaos, force Kentucky to turn the ball over, could be a huge thing to get them going. Another thing that'll get Adu Thero going, and we've talked about it a lot, the shooting, the spacing. And you mentioned Jonas Adu. We'll see what he looks like. John Calipari said 90% or whatever. I guess we'll talk about that in a second. But I think you mentioned Big Z. Is that going to be something that maybe unlocks this Arkansas? Because you go out there, this Arkansas offense, because you go out there, you knock down a few threes. All of a sudden, Adu Thero's getting to the rim. All of a sudden, Nelly Davis is good. All of a sudden, 3J Wagner knocks down a couple. Now he's able to get some of those high-quality looks like you mentioned. We're still all kind of waiting for this Arkansas offense to show some type of identity, show some progress, and take some steps forward. They scored 62 in their last game. I just think they've had a week to kind of soul search. I wonder if we see that kind of ramp up a little bit in a matchup where they're probably going in knowing we got to be ready to score in this one.
Yeah, they're gonna have a choice to make, man, between do we leave Amari Williams or Brandon Garrison kind of back in that drop coverage, protecting the rim a little bit, and risk what could happen with Big Z, or they got to step out there to the perimeter. It's not a great shot blocking team anyway, and like you said, that opens up the driving lanes for a guy like Thero. It's so important. And we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. The front court in general is really important for Arkansas. You mentioned Jonas Adu. This is not groundbreaking news, but we've been speculating that he's just not 100%. Hasn't been playing well anyway. He's got to be able to give Arkansas more when he's out there. But he's just not explosive, not moving that well. They've now had a week off, and as Cal said, like, hey, he's probably about 90%. Well, can we get 100% of that 90%? Like, that's kind of what
right.
I'm
take
looking
the 90
for here.
if you
like,
can really be 90.
that's exactly right. Arkansas needs more of its front court. Z has been coming on strong, but it's been this thing all year where Z started the season so well, and Jonas wasn't playing, right? And then Jonas comes back and he's taken off, and then all of a sudden Z's not playing much, and then Trevin has kind of been up and down. They really need all three of those guys to start clicking at once. It doesn't mean they have to go get you a double-double every single night, but they've got to be better. I thought it was interesting what Cal had to say about those guys earlier today.
We need more from our front court. We do. But, we got the guys. Jonas is still getting over that surgery. If you ask me, I'd tell you he's 90%, maybe less. TB has shown signs, Trevin has shown signs of being as good as anybody in the country. And Z has an impact on the game. Just got to play lower, be in there playing harder, longer. We do need to throw those guys the ball. We've worked on it. So, yes, we need to throw them the ball. But, we're creating good shots for each other. We just let's hope a bunch of them are dropping.
I am glad to hear that they have worked on post injuries in practice this week.
I mean, we've been calling for it. Nothing like crazy from Cal there, but I really liked what he had to say, and I agree with him. I mean, we've talked about it, kind of the story of the season, I feel like, if you talk about this Arkansas team, is you've got your 9 guys. You kind of are dependent on those 9 guys, and like what Cal said there, we have the guys. We have 3 guys in that front court that we feel, when they're at their best, we've seen Jonas A do what he can do, even in an Arkansas uniform. We've seen him have some big games. We've seen him have some double-doubles. We've seen what an impact he can have. Obviously, Trevin Brazil, we know the ceiling. We've seen some flashes there. I feel like when he's been able to stay on the floor and not be in foul trouble, he's been playing some good basketball here lately, a lot of times in smaller spurts. And then Z, I feel like, is coming off a game. I don't know what he finished shooting in that Oklahoma game, but I feel like the Georgia and Oklahoma game have been some of his best games as a Hog. Definitely changed their offense a little bit. I thought some of their best work was coming at the offensive end with him on the floor. And so, again, can they get all 3 to really play well at the same time? That's the challenge that John Calipari has to face. But it's not a question of capability for this group. And I feel like if you're able to just get what you're supposed to get out of your guys, and it's not like you're asking much. We're not saying Jonas Adu has to be the All-SEC Jonas Adu he was last year. We're not saying Big Z has to all of a sudden become Sabonis that they compared him to or whatever, or that Trevin has to even be the guy that he was 2 or 3 years ago and we thought, hey, this might be a top 15 guy. They just need to do what they're capable of doing, and if they can get all 3 of those guys to kind of just perform to the expectation even a little bit, I think it's the kind of they present the skill sets that I think would really work well against this Kentucky team. And Arkansas's one SEC win came when they just dominated the glass and they just kind of willed it into existence. I think that kind of has to start with that front court.
You think they start Big Z? I think it's time.
I think it's time as well. 2 days ago, I would have probably bet my life. Cal had enough nice things to say about Jonas Adu today that it kind of made me think, okay, they're gonna run that one back out there. And look, I mean, if you're getting the Jonas Adu that we thought we were getting preseason, sure, I'm fine with it. I honestly, I don't think they will. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I don't think they will. But I think the leash will be shorter for Adu in terms of if it comes out and he's not looking great and the flow's not there, I don't think they'll hesitate to play Z 25 minutes.
I know. I just want him to get announced in the starting lineup.
Oh, yeah.
But there would also be something, if you sub him in, just don't do it at the media timeout.
Right.
Do it within the flow of the game. Let him go to the scorer's table and everything and then get announced, because I want him to get whatever his ovation is going to be. I have no idea, but I want all those guys to get that. DJ and Thero, they're both going to start. They're locked in, so we'll see. We'll see what it looks like there. But you're right. Either way, he's probably going to play quite a few minutes there. A couple more things, and then we'll get out of here. I'm taking John L. Davis off the table for the question I'm about to ask you, but I am going to say he's very, very important in this game. Contrary to popular belief, he is not one of the guys that Mark Pope wants shooting threes. He's just not. And I get it. What is he now, 4 of 21 or something in the last 2 games? Like, he's chucking that thing. But that's so important for Arkansas spacing. People are like, well, he's shooting them because they're leaving him open. No, they're not. He's shooting them because he's working his ass off within the offense as the floppy action guy. He's running crazy off of screens, going baseline to baseline. He's getting opposing defenses into rotations, and they're fighting through that stuff to get out there on him. He's just really good at using those things and getting open. He has to start knocking down the shots, but it's so important for Arkansas spacing there. There's a reason why they're okay with him taking 12 threes a game, and there's a reason why I think that when Cal continues to say the things about we trust him, we're with him, it's coming, he's going to break out. People are tired of talking about when it's going to happen. It needs to happen in this game, whatever. I'm taking him off the table because I'm about to ask you who is the X factor for Arkansas in this game, because it's so easy to always do it's John L. Davis. He's just got to turn back the clock.
Good. Yeah.
Just be the guy that you were until you got to Arkansas, that you haven't been since you got here. His role is important for the Razorbacks. He's off the table. Pick somebody else.
Well, there's not a ton of options with this 6-man rotation, but I think we are probably aligned on this one. I think the freshman Carter Knox, the former Kentucky commit, the chicken man himself. He was he's the big chicken guy. He loves McDonald's.
Yeah,
he's the chicken man. I thought at the time that was a play on John Tyson. It was not. He just likes chicken. But we love Carter Knox. We love his chicken-loving self. That sounded really wow. That sounded racist. That sounded racist. Wow. I apologize to the Knox family, except for Kevin. I still hate his game. Still think he's not good. But I think Carter Knox is that guy, though. When you talk about X factors of this Arkansas team, and we also talk a lot about guys who get open shots, because I think Carter Knox, I don't necessarily think Mark Pope is going to be like thrilled to have Carter Knox shoot open threes, but Carter's gotten plenty of them throughout the course of the season. He's had some capabilities here and there. I think he went 2 for 3 the other day against Oklahoma.
Yes.
That Georgia game last Wednesday, I felt like we saw Carter Knox grow up a little bit. We saw some stuff out of him that was like stuff that we really weren't expecting. The effort, the intensity, the drawing fouls, the getting to the rim, the defense, getting to
offensive
rebounds, like just willing things into existence. We also saw him knock down a couple shots against Oklahoma, and he's had some moments here and there where it kind of is time for it to all start. You just add all these things. He shows flashes here, flashes there. Oh, maybe I'll make a good pass here. I'll have a good defensive possession here. I'll knock down a 3. It needs to all come together for Carter Knox, man. I mean, he's the guy that has one of the higher ceilings on this team, but I also just think in this particular matchup where, like you said, there's going to be some guys that Mark Pope's going to live and die with, hey, we'll just let them have that shot. I think Carter Knox is going to fit that criteria, and he's a guy that can completely swing a matchup. He's got that type of talent,
yes.
And we've seen little flashes of it. He's had a week here. I think this is a big game for Carter Knox and his trajectory as Arkansas's top freshman now.
When we try to piece together pathways for Arkansas to be close to Kentucky and made threes, it 100 times out of 100 involves Carter Knox knocking down at least a couple. He's got to be able to do that, and he just played probably his 40 best minutes of basketball, but it was the second half against Georgia and the first half against Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
And so now can you just put that together in one game, and then you're really onto something, because that's what's been driving me nuts. Against Georgia, he was just really struggling in the first half. He's like 1 of 5, from the field or whatever, just missing open shots again. You're like, gosh, man, it's just not going to click for him. And like you said, he was tremendous in the second half, getting to the free throw. He's 11 or 13 from the free throw line or whatever. Was a huge, huge factor in Arkansas winning that game. Then got off to such a great start against Oklahoma. You mentioned it. He knocked down a couple early threes. He's telling Porter Moser to shove it, shushing the Oklahoma bench.
I thought his layup that he hit against Oklahoma, where he attacked the closeout,
exactly,
just looked so confident and looked, I mean, when you see him stop thinking and just play basketball, you're like, holy cow, this guy.
That's exactly right. And then, did he even play in the second half? I don't even remember him being out there.
Allegedly he did, but I'm with you.
So he's doing the thing that Nelly was doing. That we've seen in so many games this year. How many times have we done the eyeball emojis when Nelly goes for like 12 in the first half of a game? You're like, oh, baby. And then you don't see him in the second half. Got to put you hear it all. We've got to put the full 40 minutes together. No, for real, man. Like we need that from Carter Knox in this game. I think it's really important. I know Cal talked about him. We'll play this clip, and then we'll wrap some things up here.
Proud of him, because freshmen come in with an idea of what this is, and this is going to be easy. And he came and we talked. He said, this is way harder than I thought it would be. Yes. And then helping him define how he should play. Can he shoot the 3? Yeah. But he's a physical offensive rebounder, driver, great free throw shooter, get fouled, and then make some threes. He defends. He's physical. He has really made strides. But, I could say the same with Billy. I've had players, and we played so fast and we're so aggressive on defense, and then you ask them to stop and shoot a free throw. So my teams historically have been just okay shooting free throws. With Billy, he is so aggressive defensively, diving on the floor, blocking a shot. He flies up and down, but then he's got to slow down. You can play fast, but you cannot be in a hurry. And he's in a hurry sometimes, but he's learning. In yesterday's practice, we scrimmaged a bunch, and he had some turnovers because, again, that's too fast. Slow down. And that's part of what we've got to do here. And I'm liking the team. Wish we had a few more wins, but this is a good group of kids. And they've stuck together. Our last game, our fans it was ridiculous. They were on it.
You get the picture. We, too, wish that Arkansas had won a few more games.
That's such – I need to clip that and just, save that forever.
Yeah.
I like the team. Wish they had a few more wins at this point, but I do. They're good kids. And, no, I think he's right there. And I liked what he said at the beginning when he's talking about Carter, how the three-point shot, they kind of view it as a secondary thing. Obviously, I think for his long-term ceiling as a player and as a prospect, he's going to have to be a consistent or at least a threat from three-point range consistently. That's a big part of what he's going to do. But I think that's the right mentality of, hey, go do all this stuff. The effort you had against Georgia. He didn't make a shot against Georgia. The one field goal he made was a layup where he gets fouls in an and one. Make all that stuff your identity, and then the three-point shot will come. You're just always – the older you get, the more you play basketball, you're going to get better as a shooter. And for someone like Carter who's got such a background as a scorer, he's going to be a good shooter when it's all said and done.
No
but
doubt.
I think if he can round out those other parts of his game, and for this particular team really embrace that kind of role player mentality, I think they could be onto something with him for sure.
Yeah, I agree, and I let the clip play out because I wanted to play what he said about Billy Richmond because, Arkansas, we had 9, now we have 8. But do you really, though? And that's something we've been talking about. And you mentioned it they're 6-man rotation. I don't have many guys to choose from here. Part of the reason why you have to say that is because can you really say Billy Richmond's in the rotation right now? Because he's just not playing that much. Jonas hasn't been. He's got to be better. Billy gives you 9-10 minutes a game, and people are screaming at the top of their lungs all the time about why is Billy Richmond not in there? He needs to play more. He gives so much energy. Yes, he does, all those things. And as we've alluded to, and Cal kind of confirmed there, you just need him to slow down and get a little bit more control on the other end. He's done that at times this year. I keep thinking back to against good teams. Arkansas's really, really struggling out of the gates against Baylor. And it was Billy Richmond who kind of settled them down and was the catalyst to them playing with more toughness and getting back in that game. And he was doing it on both ends. Same exact thing against Illinois.
Yeah,
nobody looked ready to play except Billy Richmond, and he kind of kept them at least head slightly above water until some other guys woke up. Can you get something like that from Billy? Either way, he needs to do the things that they're asking him to do to get to a point where he can play closer to 20 minutes per game. That way, what was Cal always saying? I can't play DJ 20 minutes in the second half. Well, Billy's the backup point guard, allegedly. Yeah. He has to play more, and that's going to help Arkansas maybe be a little bit better down the stretch of games that are going to be close. They completely ran out of gas against Oklahoma. You can't have that, and the way to avoid it is to have all 8 of these guys be contributors in your rotation.
Ultimately, again, that's kind of the story of this Arkansas season is you look at the team, you go player by player, and you make the case, and you're like, Adu Thero, good at basketball. John L. Davis, we've seen him. He's been good at times. Not exactly for Arkansas. DJ Wagner, weirdly enough, I think DJ's kind of been the guy that's pretty much been exactly what you thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
But again, you just going on the line and you look at the pieces and you like the idea. It just never all comes together, and you never get all those pieces to perform at the same time. And when you have an 8-man rotation that's really, like you said, a 6.5, 7-man rotation, Arkansas is looking for any consistency they can. And I think as we move forward through the season, as we go in the home stretch, those 2 freshmen, they're no longer freshmen. Mm-hmm. Like you're playing a lot. We need you to really contribute. It's no more a bonus. And that's kind of how we viewed Billy Richmond preseason of like, if you get anything out of him, cool. That's not really the case anymore. You kind of need both of those guys to help you. And so we'll see if they're able to kind of rise up. And I think this week, kind of tying it all back to what Cal said earlier about how this week is about us, and we didn't even start prepping for Kentucky until Thursday, and we needed to make sure we were in a good position. If there's ever a time for your freshmen to kind of take that next step, it would probably come in a situation like this where they have a week to think, they have a week to catch their breath, they've gotten some SEC experience. Now go out there and do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Grow up and show up. It's about that time, man. And so in closing, Arkansas's got their work cut out for them in this game. Nobody's naive to that. But this is not a David versus Goliath thing.
No. Hell, you can make a case Arkansas is the more talented team.
Exactly. This is not St. Peter's versus Kentucky. It's Arkansas versus Kentucky. Is that a bad example?
Well, it's an Arkansas team that's 16-34 or whatever against Kentucky all time or whatever it is.
That's exactly right. And what's interesting to me about it, and I get it, is that Arkansas fans are upset about the way this thing has gone. And the majority, I would say, at least the people that tune into our shows or comment or whatever, are kind of expecting Arkansas to come in here and get their asses kicked. You know, everyone we've talked to here at Kentucky is the exact opposite, where they're saying, "Yeah, no, we think it's going to be a battle. We expect a battle."
That's a little bit of a reverse jinx attempt, though.
Maybe so, but I appreciate the awareness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I appreciate and also I think Kentucky under Mark Pope in year one, I would say it's gone better than even they expected, but definitely like national media expected. I think there were a lot of questions about the roster and would this team be elite and all that. But like to your point, it's not like this is some juggernaut that's like they have some big time wins and they've shown up against the best teams.
I'll feel that way against Auburn.
Oh, 100%. 100%, because that's a team that you kind of just they check all the boxes. Kentucky has shown they can compete with anyone in the country, but they haven't shown that they're just a juggernaut that is an automatic, they're going to come out there and just steamroll anybody, especially even some of those teams that you probably should be, like a Vanderbilt. You lose to Vanderbilt, it's just hard for me to believe that you're this guy, you're this team that Arkansas can't get up and play against. And look, Arkansas's got a lot to prove. We're not trying to make the case that like Arkansas should be favored here, but I agree with your sentiment. This ain't no David versus Goliath situation.
Yeah, get excited for the game. Be open to the possibilities. Arkansas has to do their part, but Kentucky is vulnerable if they do, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Lost to Vanderbilt. Georgia beat them by double figures. I know it was on the road. Ohio State, they're no better than Arkansas. They beat them by 20. Like it's not crazy.
Especially with their style. It's kind of a style that's tough to be good game in and game out. Like, obviously, it's a style that can beat literally anyone, and we've seen that with Kentucky, but it's not the most foolproof, no holes in it style. Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what it winds up looking like here in a couple days. But we're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, tapping in with us. Appreciate KSBar for being gracious host. It's been really cool.
Awesome.
This is goals. I don't know why any of you would be in Lexington if you're not here for this game, but if you do, it's a cool place. If you can just ignore the all the Kentucky stuff hanging around, it's a pretty cool place to hang out. I'm impressed. It's goals for Inside Arkansas for sure. So
I didn't realize it was goals until today, but it's definitely goals.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. But hey, appreciate you guys for tapping in. We'll be back in the morning. It's been Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis with Inside Arkansas and the Pod at the Palace. Y'all have a good day. See you tomorrow.